wonderful, and Melanie, I've been following since first meeting you in Jerusalem at the Honest Reporting conference that you made. It was amazing. I have a question, and I've been thinking about it for a long time. It's the Palestinians is just an outcome of the Islamic world's refusal of Israel. The same thing as the Christian world's refusal of Israel, for a very simple reason. If Israel exists, the Jews are back, they remain the chosen people, theology replacement is not possible anymore. And it's this basic confrontation, and I don't see it addressed under this rubric. And I know it's a very hot issue, but I think that slowly we have to get there to be able to really say what's really going on. Because this has nothing to do with Arafat only and Palestinians. They are stooges. They've been put up there, as you said, but because there's something much, much bigger happening, much bigger. And the Pope himself, not the Pope now, but at the time of Israel's existence in the beginning, had said, I refuse to support the existence of Israel as a state for the Jews. And I know there have been changes in '64 and Nostritata and all of that stuff, but this is not addressed sufficiently.
I think you make a perfectly, a very valid and very important point that theology is wrapped up in all this. I also think it was a mistake to think for all those years that the fight over Israel was a fight, was a political fight rather than a religious fight, because what was ignored was as you say, the importance of Islamic thinking towards the Jews that was wrapped up in all this. But it's not just Islamic thinking towards the Jews, it's also the idea that, a piece of land that's been occupied by Muslims is therefore Muslim for all time. It's as far as the Muslim world is concerned, the land and the religion are really wrapped up much more explicitly than in the Christian world. The Christian world is divided. As you may know, biblically faithful Christians, who are very numerous in this country, are the most powerful support group for Israel in the world. They are, in my view, I'm afraid to say, much more powerful a support group for Israel than the Jewish community. Now, we may well have some reservations about some of these Christians, some of these evangelical Christians, who believe that they believe in the state of Israel, they believe in the land of Israel, they believe in the Jews being in the land of Israel, because they believe that Israel is where Jesus will return, and at that point they believe that the Jews will be converted. And so a lot of Jews, I know in America in particular, are very concerned about those Christians. They believe they are basically anti-Semites and that we can't be in alliance with them because they want to convert us at the end of days. Well, speaking for myself, I'll take my chances on that when it comes. And when I meet Jesus at the Western Wall at the end of days, I'll say, were you here before? So these things are complicated. On the other hand, in the Christian world, among progressive churches, this is where the thing that you're talking about has really surfaced. This idea that that was central to Christian thinking since the early Christian fathers, the idea that the Christians have inherited the promises made by God to the Jews because the Jews denied the divinity of Jesus. And therefore all the promises made to the Jews devolve on the Christians, including the promise of the land. And this has become fused in recent years with Palestinianism. The embrace of the progressive churches with the Palestinian cause on the basis of kind of liberation theology, third world movements, resistance movements, and all that sort of nonsense has been used by Palestinian Christians to kickstart this old replacement theology belief that the Jews have inherited, that the Christians have inherited the promises made by God to the Jews, and that's why we heard. I know people laugh, but I'm afraid it's such a terrible thing. You know, Christians are themselves now being taught Jesus was a Palestinian, and this is the most dreadful thing because, you know, as one of the people in the film said, if you deny the Judaism, that's the basis of Christianity, you deny Christianity because Jesus was a Jew. So these things are all wrapped up together. And I do think it's important to address those as well. And that is not covered specifically in this film, and it wasn't covered specifically in my remarks, but I think you make a very good point, and I think we shouldn't lose sight of that.
I think we have one more question, and then we should wrap.